Chapter 11. Introduction. Anne quickly grabs the cigarette from Dam's hand and balances it between his lips while he retrieves the lighter from his pocket. He lights the cigarette and takes a long puff before letting the smoke out, all the while staring out of the window. Dam parks his car at a parking lot in front of a big roundabout surrounded by bus stops. Dam looks outside for a moment, then his gaze moves towards the rearview mirror and he looks at Anne. He suddenly looks beside him and says, "Okay, when you see her, let me know." Airdrie looks up on his left at him as he says, "Okay, so what does she look like?" Dam thinks for a moment before he responds, Young." "Young?" Airdrie asks in amazement. Dam shrugs before carelessly responding, "Yeah." Airdrie says, "Okay, that's going to be easy." Anne takes the cigarette out from between the grip of his lips as he asks, "What's her name?" Dam looks at him from the rearview mirror and replies, "Noah." Anne asks, "Noah? Like the Ark? How long have you been with this girl?" Dam drawls, Just once." Anne asks incredulously, "Just once?" Before Dam can answer his question, someone on the other side of the vehicle catches his attention as he says, "Look, that's her." Airdrie scans the surroundings outside the car and asks, "Where?" Dam's gaze is transfixed at the beauty in front of him as he replies, "The pretty blonde in the white dress." Dam honks the horn to get her attention and chuckles before saying, "Okay, Airdrie, go to the back seat." Airdrie asks, "The usual way?" Dam says, "Yeah." Airdrie crawls towards the back seat while staying inside the vehicle, just the way he switched seats with Dam in the morning. Anne calls out, "Hey, easy." Airdrie says, apologetically, "Sorry." Airdrie finally makes it to the back seat after some struggling. He is now sitting beside Anne at his left as the passenger door opens from the outside. Dam says in an excited voice, "Noah!" Noah mirrors his enthusiastic smile as she says, "Dam! It's so good to see you again. How are you?" Dam smiles graciously as he says, "I'm good. Thanks for asking." Noah suddenly extends her arms and says, "Give me a hug." Dam accepts the request for a hug and hugs her tightly. Both of them had a smile on their faces. They cling on to each other as if they were waiting to reunite for such a long time. At the back, Airdrie looks at his right to see Anne looking down. Dam's gaze shifted towards Airdrie at the back, while he is still locked in an embrace with Noah. After breaking the hug, Dam quickly says, "Oh, sorry." "Noah, this is Airdrie, and Airdrie, this is Noah." Noah, in a sweet voice, greets Airdrie, "Hi." Airdrie looks at her and says, "Hello, nice to meet you." Airdrie puts his hand out towards Noah for a handshake, and Noah accepts it before saying, "Nice to meet you too. You're too kind." Noah smiles at Airdrie, and he says, "Thank you." Airdrie gives a half smile to Noah and let go of her hand. Dam quickly says, "And this is my son, Anne." Anne stops staring at the carpeted base of the car and looks up towards his right to see Noah. He stares at her before saying, "Hello?" Noah looks at Anne with the blank face, while Airdrie notices the encounter rather suspiciously. After a moment of not getting any response, Anne just says, Okay then?" Noah stops staring at him and diverts her attention towards Dam as he says, "Yeah, ain't he a peach?" Noah sits straight and stares at the deserted street in front of her through the windshield, without another word. Dam twists the key in the ignition and the engine roars to life as he says, "Okay, let's get out of here." Dam slowly backs up the vehicle and drives off towards their next stop. In the city, at that hour, almost every place seems dark and deserted. There are barely any cars on the road, and the light from the street lamps is casting the car's shadow on the streets every few meters. Despite the car being packed by 4 people, the atmosphere inside the car is eerily silent. Airdrie finally decides to break the ice as he looked at Noah from the back seat and asks, "So, Noah, what do you do?" Noah responds, "I'm a freelancer." Airdrie doesn't get her, as he says after a slight pause. Pardon? I'm trying to find a job, but there's no luck. Noah decides to tell him about her struggles, instead of describing her on and off source of income. Oh, are you thinking of going back to school? Airdrie questions again. Noah shrugs before replying. I did some classes before, but it teaches me things I already knew. School is a waste of time. Airdrie looks at her strangely from behind and asks, Then, what are you interested in? Noah stares at Anne through the rearview mirror before diverting her gaze back to the windshield in front of her. She says, Well, today I was about to hand in my resume to this walk-in clinic, but someone was being rude to me. Anne slowly turns his head away from the window and looks at his left in front of him, at the back of Noah's head. He hears Dam questioning, Who was being rude to you? Noah shrugs and says, This random guy sitting outside the walk-in. Dam asks curiously, What did he do? Noah looks at Anne again for a split second before responding. I asked him what was wrong, and he said, Look, I don't need your advice, okay? Just leave me alone. Very harshly, I must say. Anne's eyes start lowering with shame. He knew he did the wrong thing, and he went after her to apologize, but who knew that they'd meet like that? Dam asks Noah again, What else did he say? Noah replies, Oh, he also shouted, Fuck off, cunt. Remorse and guilt clearly flash on Anne's face as he looks down now completely. Meanwhile, Airdrie is listening to the whole exchange, along with observing Anne's expression from beside. Dam exclaims out of anger, What a disrespectful man! Airdrie questions, What did he look like? Anne gets worried and looks at Airdrie. Noah shrugs and responds, He's the same age as me, and he has bandages on his forehead. Anne slides down in his seat a little more and drags his top hat down to cover his bandaged forehead, sneakily. He tries to be as oblivious of the whole conversation as he can be, but he doesn't know that Airdrie is continually watching him.